Hi everyone, my name is Evie Jeang, and today we're going to talk about pursuing surrogacy in California. And I am a family law attorney, being practiced over 18 years. And the reason why I'm doing this presentation today, because surrogacy is getting very popular. As you know, a lot of celebrities are using surrogacy as a way to have baby, especially with LGBTQIA community, equal love, and now it's a good way for them to also to create a family. As a family law attorney for all this year, for over 18 years, instead of like helping people with divorces and legal separation, I think surrogacy is one of my favorite because it's a way to creating a family and unify a family. So my practice is in California. As you know, surrogacy is legal in California. And as we go through the presentation, you're going to realize that surrogacy is not a federal law approved. So it's still based on state by state. So some states legalize surrogacy, some states don't. Luckily, in California is one of the most liberal states that allows surrogacy. And this is the reason my office, our location are in California, Los Angeles, and our headquarters is in San Francisco. Okay, so let's go to the power slide. I don't know if you guys can see it, but the first power slide is, what is surrogacy? A lot of people don't know what surrogacy is. So in a nutshell, there are two types of surrogacy. There's gestational surrogacy and traditional surrogacy. I'm not going to talk about traditional surrogacy because traditional surrogacy now, a lot of clinics were not allowed to do. And some states won't even, some of the states that does allow surrogacy doesn't allow traditional surrogacy. Traditional surrogacy is when the woman that's carrying the embryo, the fetus, is also the egg donor of that fetus. So today what we're going to talk about is what is legalized in California and most clinics were allowed to perform or to do is gestational surrogacy. Gestational surrogacy is when the surrogate has not or do not have genetic relationship to the baby. These women have embryo transferred into them that are created through the process of IVF. Heterosexual intended parent, IP, that's what we call them, can be couple provide the both egg and the sperm. There's also a lot of homosexual, same-sex intended parents, and this is what I was stated before, surrogacy help a lot of infertility couple to have baby, also LGBTQIA. So same-sex couple, intended parent can be gay couple that can only provide the sperm, but also need to look for a donor, do a donor bank, a donor agency, or sometimes their friend or sister would be the donor. Same thing with lesbian couple, they would go to sperm bank agency and look for sperm, sometimes with assistant or help of their friends or relative. Intended mother, what is intended mother? Intended mother can also be single female who wants to use her egg and sperm from the donor. So IP doesn't have to be a mom and dad to do a surrogacy. We see a lot of successful women having a hard time finding the one, the soulmate, but they really want to have a family, and they should financially. They're stable. They don't need dual income to help them to support and raise a child financially. So a lot of these professional women will freeze their egg, and when they're ready, still haven't found their soulmate, if that's calls it. They were looking for a sperm donor and decided to be a parent, do surrogacy. Intended father also is not just female, a lot of male. Actually, in the last few years, I see more and more professional men that can't find a soulmate or afraid of the possibility of divorce, that can divide their asset, what they're working hard for, but do want to have a family, will also go through surrogacy process to create a family of their own. Surrogacy is very common, like I said, it's getting even more common now. It's also referred to as assisted reproductive technology, ART, A-R-T. According to a surrogacy contract is an assisted reproduction agreement, gestational carrier agreement, or surrogate agreement. And this is the reason why we have lawyers to be involved in this process, in surrogacy process, because when you find a surrogate, the surrogate would need agreement that need to be represented by counsel, and it has to be independent counsel. So the intended parent doesn't matter, a professional woman, single men, or same-sex couple, heterosexual couple. All IP, when they're going to the surrogacy, they will need to have a surrogacy agreement that is represent both parties separately. So they both have independent counsel. They cannot share. So this is based on, based on California Family Code Section 7606, assisted reproduction is defined, or the meaning would be defined as conception by any means other than sexual intercourse. Okay, so this is giving you a little basic idea what surrogacy is, and we can go more to see what else. And before we go deeper into the legal part of the surrogacy, we can just go to the basic term in surrogacy law. So when I go to the PowerPoint, if there's any question, you will have a better idea what I'm referring to. So those are the following surrogacy term on PowerPoint number 2 to tell you what they are. So when I mention them, you know who I'm referring to or what they mean. Biological mother or genetic donor is a woman who contributes her egg to reproduce the resulting children. Biological father, genetic donor, a man who contributes his sperm to reproduce resulting children. Same thing, right? Intended parent, as I mentioned many times in PowerPoint number 1, intended parents are parents who wanted to have family, but hiring somebody else to carry out the term. So intended parent can be gay couple, hetero couple, even just professional single professional women or men that don't have a couple or partner but wanted to create a family through assisted reproduction technology. Traditional surrogate mother is the woman who donates her own DNA, her egg, and carry the fetus, the pregnancy, for somebody else. Story of that, we see some classic movie in that. I can't think of one right now, but I do see the other side of it, the sperm, where Jennifer Aniston was in this movie and her best friend donated the sperm and they end up having a baby and she carried it, the baby. So traditional surrogate mother is carrying a baby of her own egg, even though when the child is born is someone else's children. So the sperm can be from someone else. Gestational surrogate mother is that the mother who gestates carry the fetus until it's born. So as I mentioned to you on PowerPoint number 1, there's traditional surrogacy, there's gestational surrogacy, and what we're gonna most talk about is what's allowed is gestational surrogacy. So gestational surrogate mother is there's no DNA, there's no genetic related to the fetus that she's carrying in her stomach. She literally just being an oven, if I want to put it in a very direct way, is that she literally just carrying the 9 months of carrying the fetus in her stomach and to deliver the baby until it's born, right? And gestational surrogacy is that surrogacy arrangement occur when a woman undergo an IVF to carry a fetus that has no genetic or biological link to her. And that's what I was mentioning again in Power 1, the difference between traditional surrogacy, visit gestational surrogacy. Okay, so now we go on PowerPoint number 3, sperm donor. California law treat any individual who provides sperm that is used for assisted reproductive technology as the sperm donor. Typically, homosexual gay relationship, both intended parent may choose to each father one child, and therefore are referred to as a two separate sperm donor. This is done if the couple wish to be genetically and biologically related to one children or one child each. It is not uncommon for each person to adopt their partner's children or child as their own. Again, just we can talk about that later as we going deeper on the surrogacy agreement, and from there we're also going to talk about what is pre-birth order, okay, PBO. Sperm donor, we get a lot of requests, call saying that my friends or my ex-boyfriend willing to donate his sperm. Can he do that? But the concern that he has is, would he have any liability or any parental right to the child that we will have from this result from his donor, from his donating his sperm? And my answer is yes, he would be, unless there is a sperm donor agreement. So when that happened, we call that person who made the donation as a known donor, right? So, because I hate to say this, the sperm is not as expensive compared to purchase from an egg donor, buying or purchase an egg donor. So sperm donor is about $1,500 price range to $800 to $1,500 to $2,000, and you can easily get a sperm donor. Also do sperm bank, and do sperm bank most of the time is there's no agreement involved because it's just unknown sperm donor. And when people call us, mostly it's because your friends or ex-boyfriend, whoever, willing to make the donation, but that would be a known sperm donor. And in that, we want to make sure that everything's covered, so they will feel more carefree to make that donation. And our client, who's going to be the parents of the child who received the sperm, also wanted to make sure that they have the full parental right, and they don't want the sperm donor to have parental rights sometimes, depend on the situation. So it's important for us to make sure we secure and execute a good sperm donor agreement before the conception, right? And if there's no written agreement, then the party need to provide evidence of clear and convincing proof of an oral agreement, or else most likely, even though it was out of his kindness to donate his sperm, he would still be liable or responsible as a parental right, and then as a parental right, it will also come with child support and so on. Lastly, there are anonymous matches between the donor and the recipient party, as I mentioned earlier, sperm bank, and where intended mother can seek assistance from ART, assistant reproduction technology medical professional like sperm bank and donor bank agency, or visit their local sperm bank to find a sperm donor that way. And if a sperm is acquired through a sperm bank, there will mostly doesn't require a sperm donor agreement in place, because you just purchase via vial or whatever how many vial you need, and most of the time the agency, the sperm bank, already have a contract with the sperm donor, the anonymous sperm donor on their end. And all sperm banks keep the donor anonymous when it comes to personal information as name, address, and other relevant contact information. Some of the sperm donor requests for allow their identity to be disclosed once the child have reached the age of 18. We do see that also. Okay, and then so that was a sperm donor contract. Same thing with a donor contract, but a little bit more complicated and definitely more pricey if you wanted to purchase through the agency. Like I said, we help a lot of LGBTQIA community, and a lot of time a gay couple both want to have a child of their own, and then they can adopt the partner's child or children. They will share one A donor because at least they both children share one genes or one parent's gene, so they are sibling. And they will request for a donor. A donor law also vary from state to state. Like I said, this whole thing with assisted reproduction technology art, the law is not federal binding. It literally depends on the state. Every state have different rule and opinion and legislation regarding surrogacy. And the laws continue evolving, adapting to new circumstances in this industry as medical have evolved so fast. The law sometimes takes a little bit longer to catching up with the medical involvement or evolution. As I stated before, the reason why we're doing surrogacy in California is because California law always have been super friendly towards surrogacy for all individual and couple who want to have children. However, intended parents should be wary of signing the document related to the IVF process. In most cases, clinic consent form will not fully cover each other distinct cases. Every set of parents are different, and every egg donation process is different, right? So sometimes they get a donor due their family member or friend. They're going to have a different rule. And when you go to the fertility clinic to doing this egg donor process, you have to start with IVF. The consent form will ask all the legitimate questions, such as in the case of divorce, the created embryo, who belongs to which partner, and what will you want to do with the embryo. Another question is that whatever egg donor they choose, the intended parent choose, the doctor also has to approve them in terms of whether the egg is healthy, is this a good candidate? So a lot of those questions would often be in the agreement that the intended parent is going to have with the fertility clinic. So those are the agreement that you definitely have to take a look. A lot of time we just go to the doctor, we sign off on things without looking. But when you go to fertility clinic, and especially during IVF, whether yourself or the egg donor, is very, you should read it carefully, because you're going to be scenario that when something happens, how will you want to manage or taking care of the embryo, the surviving embryo. Okay. And this is the reason we have this webinar, because we wanted to help intended parents should always retain legal counsel to assist them in this process from the very beginning to the end, not just after the IVF until we find an egg donor and the baby's born. You should always have a legal counsel that's specializing in surrogacy law to help you from the beginning to the very end, because the agreement is not just based on surrogacy agreement. Sometimes you also need a donor agreement, sperm donor agreement, and your consent form, an agreement with the agency and the fertility clinic. And so the legal counsel can help assist, IP intended parent in establishing a very protected and written egg donor agreement that's protective of all party right. Same thing as sperm donor. The egg donor wants to make sure which you have parental right to the embryo, and so on. So it's always important that agreement be as comprehensive and detailed as possible. And later on, we will discuss why this is even more so important with surrogate agreement. In a donor agreement, the party will establish their expectation with each other, as well as there's any or maybe any potential visitation between the donor and the children. So when the intended parent is looking or searching for a donor, there's always an intake form to fill out what is your opinion about certain thing, and we try to match, or the agency, the a donor agency will try to match you with somebody that fit your criteria, your idea, and so on. So some of the a donor would like to see the children or the child resulted from the a donating the egg, and some wouldn't want to know or have any contact. So whatever the expectation is between the party, that need to be addressed in the a donor agreement also. The executed a donor agreement will also be needed at the time in which counsel established parental right between the children and the intended parent. The court will require a copy of that signed by all parties that signed the agreement to approve what I was stated earlier. There's a thing called pre-birth order. So for the court to approve and allow you to have a pre-birth order, they're going to ask a donor, if there's a donor involved, the a donor agreement to be part of the package to submit it in order to get the pre-birth order approved by the court. The known a donor agreement involves special conservation, since typically a donor match are usually anonymous. So the process of a known match or a known a donor may also complicate the donation agreement. And a lot of time I have intended parents feel that maybe they know they're a donor, they don't need a donor contract. I would always advise against that, because when the baby come or some situation happen, a lot of time they're going to have a different expectation, because your view change, your expectation also can change during the process, and it's a long process. Imagine 9 months pregnancy, and before that all the testing, and during this 9-month pregnancy thing can also happen. People view change or feeling change. So I always think that having a contract agreement to put in place will clarify any misunderstanding or any problem in the future. Okay, so now we go on the next PowerPoint. This page 4 PowerPoint, we're going to talk about California surrogacy law. Since I'm a attorney doing practice in California, and in California is very liberal about surrogacy law, and this is the state that we're going to focus on. Contrary to belief, there are no federal law, as I would mention in the very beginning, that talk about surrogacy or governing the surrogacy in the United States. The law varies from state to state, and that's why California, we got lucky, is very accepting and probably the most favorable state to pursue surrogacy. I'm giving you a couple cases in the PowerPoint, and when you have free time, you can take a look. Calvert Vincent Johnson, Bazanga to help pave the way for California to be surrogate-friendly state. This is just the state law, but I believe the first surrogate baby is age 42 right now. So we have our first surrogate baby 42 years ago. And we have the IVF, I think a little bit like 43 years ago or 44 years ago. And the first surrogate baby is called Baby M. I think her name was Mary, and then we refer her as a Baby M. So as you can see, surrogacy has been evolving and changing more than 40 years. And it finally catch more people's attention now, because maybe it has to do with women are much more active in the business world. So now this egg freezing, and aphasing lead to surrogacy, and so on. And our technology, medical technology, have been moving so fast that the law finally catching up. Okay, so as I stated, California is one of the few states in the U.S. where intended parent can establish their legal parentage right before to the birth of the children. California law are inclusive of gender, races, sex, sexual orientation, and so on. So just to give you an example, even with country that allows surrogacy, if all country allows surrogacy, they still have discrimination or rule against same-sex couple or same-sex partner. So United States, especially California, is the most liberal regarding surrogacy because we don't discriminate sexual orientation. So this is a really big deal for LGBTQIA community because now they can really create a family of their own legally and feel the freedom to do so. In some states, surrogacy is illegal, as I mentioned before, and I give you two examples because one state is everybody surprised by is New York. Because everybody thinks New York is a big city, is very cosmopolitan. They would be surprised when they'll always be surprised when I told them surrogacy is not allowed in New York. Michigan also is a criminal act. You can put in jail for that. They have a criminal penalty, which doesn't make any sense to me. In New York, you can get fined up to $10,000 for surrogacy. But you could freeze your egg, so that's one good thing. Okay, so requirement about the surrogacy agreement. Once they have a surrogate, they want to go through the process. All parties have to be represented by their own legal counsel. Party cannot share counsel. So if anyone thinking that they want to save the money and then try to use one attorney, you cannot do that. The contract itself would be invalid. Most surrogacy agreements about $3,000 to $5,000. The review counsel who reviewed this agreement is about $750 to $1,500 to $2,000. So that's the price range to draft a surrogacy agreement and to review an agreement. So just give you an idea how much surrogacy will cost. I will lead to that later on as we go forward with the surrogacy webinar. Surrogacy agreement need to be notarized in order to be considered valid under the law. We deal with a lot of surrogacy clients that are overseas because surrogacy is illegal in Asia. And in fact, in Asia, they don't recognize same-sex marriage until recently. Last year, Taiwan was the first Asian country to recognize same-sex marriage. But surrogacy is still not allowed. In fact, in China, if you are a single woman not married, you are not allowed to freeze your egg just for future use, even though you're doing this for biological clock, to protect yourself against the biological clock, and you're just not ready. You cannot have the option to freeze your egg. In Asia, you also cannot do sex selection, gender selection. So a lot of time, we have a lot of clients from overseas, especially in Asia, because the law is not as liberal as United States. And a lot of time, the women themselves don't have the right that they could have during the U.S. And surrogacy agreement need to be executed and notarized prior to demonstration of surrogates fertility medication. So when the surrogates start to do the surrogacy, a lot of times they have to be injected with hormone so that their uterus can be ready to carry the embryo or the fetus. And, you know, and also the agreement, like I said, has to be notarized. So a lot of time it's very difficult for my client to get the agreement to be notarized, especially then overseas in Asia. So some of the problem we have encountered is that finding a notary in China or in Taiwan, in Asia, that also it's recognized by the U.S. government. Number two, because surrogacy is illegal, having to notarize something that is illegal or practiced in their country is very difficult to find someone who's willing to do that.